All right, guys, what is happening? It's Halsey Schider with the Helicopter Podcast, and we are recording from European Rotors 2024, and I am very excited to have Robinson in the house in the form of Mr. Randall Schaffer and, of course, CEO David Smith. David, Randy, welcome to the show.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Yep.
I think is this number 4?
Number 4, yeah, number 4. Getting almost to regular status. We can be syndicated before long.
I think so.
Yep.
But that's interesting thing about you.
Yeah.
Is you're so open and willing to be present in the industry. In fact, I was kind of laughing this morning. I'm in my gross workout clothes, drinking coffee, not wanting to see anyone, but I'm in a public lobby, so I can't help it. And who sits right next to me and starts having a conversation? It's David, the CEO of Robinson. I'm like, this guy's too accessible.
Yes, too accessible is probably a fair point. Yeah, but it's good. It's a good situation, I'd say, for these early years to, make sure we never miss an opportunity to connect.
Yeah.
We don't want people to feel like they can't approach our leadership team. So all of our folks are here at the show for that reason. We brought a big group so we can be even more accessible. If one of us is tied up, there's others that can be available to listen.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It's I get the fortune to meet and work with a lot of different OEMs and different operators and different people, and it's very cool to have the access to you and the executive team now with Randy. Randy, first timer on the show.
I know.
Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hot seat too. There's a lot of people are watching. It's my voice just cracked. This is going great.
It's exciting.
Tell me a little bit more about you and what you're doing at Robinson, your role, and then I'm really excited to talk about Robinson and Europe and all that. So we'll lead off with you.
Yeah, so I just joined Robinson in July, so happy to be here. And again, thank you for having us.
Of course.
So very integrated into the Robinson helicopter family. So I started flying about 21 years ago, started my initial flight training in R-22s and 44s in Arizona, and then attended the safety course for the first time in 2006, so a long time ago. And I knew one day I wanted to come back to Robinson and really help make a difference on here. So here I am now 18 years later, and in my new role, overseeing the customer support and technical support and the flight and maintenance training groups and teams, and ready to take us on the new vision direction that David has for us and the team. So really excited.
Yeah, it's really cool. What exactly is your title now?
Vice President of Customer Success.
Okay, customer success. And we've talked about this actually before on the idea of customer success and how important that is. But to our listeners, what does customer success really mean to you guys at Robinson?
So for me, it really means partnering in understanding and working with our customers, really making sure we provide them with the resources, with the tools, the parts, the availability of our team, which has always been phenomenal. This is one of the major strengths of Robinson, is we've always been available, and we're really looking to expand and grow as we continue into the future here. And really that will transition into the success of our customers. And as long as they're flying and as long as they're happy, then it's a win-win scenario for everybody.
So,
so success is a little too is much more precise about what we intend to achieve. I mean, support and customer service, customer support, those words are often used in these kind of these types of roles, but they're a little abstract. What does that mean to support the customer? And I think it starts with Randy's team really understanding the customer, what they need, what success really is to them. And small businesses have maybe different success factors than the large operators of helicopters. And so today we are proud that most of the operators we have are small businesses. Most of our dealers and service centers are small businesses. So understanding that takes a lot of listening skills, takes a lot of engaging with your customers. So that's definitely going to be the first priority for all of us, is to just learn how we can make our customers more successful. And then Randy's primary role is to make them successful every day.
It seems like you've really been pushing this narrative ever since you took over. And even before you were announced CEO, it seemed like things were in the works of connecting with service centers and operators and everyone in between. I know that you've had the dealer meeting back at HI. You had the dealer meeting here in Europe. I'm sure you're talking to service centers and other folks all the time and operators. What is some of the pain points that they've brought to you that you guys are really excited about working with them and making their success a little bit easier?
Yeah, so it's really kind of focused on three things that we've been looking at. Is the sustainment side of the house, so parts availability. That's been a number one as talking to customers ever since I came on board, that we can always improve on. So we're really diving into the parts that are causing the issues with the helicopters that are causing them to pain points, and we're really trying to get those parts available and quickly out to them too. The speed of response is another one I've always heard. So, how available we are we listening? Are we responding very quickly? Because they're obviously emailing and calling for a reason, so we want to get back to them as quick as possible and again, get them flying back up in the air. And then our warranty and our core program too. That's been a big focus that we've seen over the last couple months of just questions about how we're going to improve the process-wise. So we've really done a really deep dive looking at a lot of non-value-added processes, really staffing the team. We've actually hired some new folks here that have started on Monday, so they're going to help improve the warranty and repair process and, again, communicate with the customers so we have a quicker turn time and can look to have a more stabilized what to expect from a maintenance cost, too, for when they send in the core back to us.
Yeah, one of the big things, Robinson is many great things. One of the things we are is a huge MRO business, and the MRO side is we're right in the middle of the operations of our customers because they're sending parts to us at the end of a life and need them turned and need an overhaul exchange item back. And that process can be financially challenging because it has lags in it of when they pay a core credit, a core deposit, and we give them that money back at the conclusion of the exchange when the parts check good. All that process is an opportunity to be both lean forward on customers, giving them some value back earlier, and just being clear about where their components are in the process. And so it's a mix of communication and operational performance. So Randy's jumped in and really attacked those initially with looking at the process and streamlining where there's opportunity to remove steps or to simplify things, where in the past we had been pretty particular about the number of forms you had to fill out and the way in which you had to fill them out. So we were too much like the IRS in the U.S. And not enough like Amazon, So I think we need to have a bit more inspiration there.
It's about the experience, right, of making it just accessible and easy. I understand that Robinson has a deep culture. In fact, something that I realized when I came and did the safety course video was how deep that culture was. People been there for a long time. I was fortunate enough to meet so many different cool employees that are in the factory, in the training department, people that worked with Frank, people that have been there for longer than I've been alive. But with that, obviously there can be very rooted in culture and ideas of how things should be. How have you guys as an executive team kind of mitigated some of these new changes that you guys are making that I think from a client success standpoint are probably the right changes, the right thing? You guys, I think, in my opinion, are pushing harder than any other OEM. So what has that been like, and how did you introduce that to your workforce?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we were blessed with is the workforce is they're very, very supportive of change, much more even than I've experienced in my previous life, where some people distrust change because they view it as losing control or losing power. Folks inside of Robinson are very supportive of if there's a better way. They absolutely want to improve it, and many of them have ideas themselves. So we've been really good at, I think, within Randy's team of engaging the team in developing ideas, thinking about the process steps that they find wasteful, and then we go after those first. You gain consensus that way, and part of the objective of all this is to set it very clear for folks what the goals are. And early on, we kind of set the simple goal that everyone who's not flying today that could be is time we never get back. And so keeping people flying is the prime directive, and that unifies folks, because in the past that wasn't always the case. In Robinson, in some cases, the worry was make sure that the process was executed perfectly, regardless of how long it took or regardless of how many days delay that put on an operator. So we realigned objectives, made that very clear, and then engaged them in the problem solving of how to find waste.
Has it been, have you had employees that are not part of the executive team come to you guys and make some really valuable suggestions on making the process better?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's folks that have been in our training department for a long time that have been there for 20, 30 years that are now, as part of this new vision, they want to say, we can do this new course here. Let's start talking about this and develop it. And things that they've always kind of just held close to their chest, now that they're feeling that they can come and say, hey, this is a great idea. Why don't we go try this? And you know what? As we'll evaluate it and look at it, and maybe there is a good way and that we've seen. So I think it's great.
One of the great foundations we have, and I think it's a really neat opportunity for Randy to grow the training department, is so in the past, we've done all this safety course work and even our maintenance course work to qualify folks to do factory maintenance, factory approved maintenance, that kind of thing. it's never really had the burden of regulatory approvals as a driver. We have other folks who do regulated training in the regions that require it, but that's freed us to be all about the effort, the end result. The end result, which is safe operation, safe piloting, safe maintenance. So it's about safety and performance there. And I think that's given us the freedom where we can add courses that are like, they're too small maybe for a professional training outfit to go after, but they're valuable. Post-maintenance test flights, for example, training people how to do those well, really huge. And actually, it's a contributor to product quality, because if you don't do that right, then oftentimes that makes its way into the field, right? So I think that's a good example. Transition courses from an OEM perspective, a lot of other OEMs do really significant transition courses. But for us, since we have a safety course foundation, supplementing that with the deeper systems knowledge in a way that is, an OEM glimpse into the product, but not one that is intended to replace what's out in the world today. So those kinds of programs are all good examples of just, freedom that we have to go after non-regulated OEM training. Really exciting.
Speaking of the safety course, to my listeners, if you haven't had the opportunity, you can check out my recent attendance of the Robinson R66 safety course. You said 2006 was your original safety course. I think I wasn't far behind. 2008, 2009, and then to come back was kind of cool. Just to see my progress in the industry. And thank you again for inviting me. It was truly a great time, and the course was really neat. What I loved about the course is, even as a professional pilot, a guy that understands the different aerodynamic hazards, and I know what settling power is, and I know how to avoid settling with power. That's all fine. It's good to reinforce that stuff. But what I loved about your guys' safety course, and I hope I portrayed this in the video, is the openness of talking about accidents, specifically in the platform.
Exactly. And
that was my biggest takeaway, because I'm sitting in this classroom. I don't like class. I didn't go to college for a reason, guys, right? So, I'm not a classroom guy, but here I am kind of enthralled during the whole course. Not because of I have some weird thing about looking at accidents. It's more of it was really educational for me to talk about a hazard and then see how it plays out in the real world, and that really reinforced behaviors on how I approach flying, the importance of proper pre-flight planning and all the things that professional pilots sometimes tend to slowly drift away. So I really hope that from my video and whatnot, that a safety course isn't just an idea for a new pilot. The safety course should be it should be a yearly thing, right?
Absolutely.
I really
Absolutely.
think that if you're flying an R66, an R44, an R22 as your full-time job, that's the aircraft. I mean, there's no reason to not attend the safety course. And I have to say, it's very affordable as well. It's not a crazy expensive course.
Best value you're going to find in the market for training. And I think we're going to continue to improve that course even more. In the years ahead, you'll see investments in approachable simulation that we can use to give people simple ways to do scenarios that have caught other pilots by surprise or led to some of the more classical accidents we had. When you see a case study in the safety course, to then be able to carry that into a simulated session where you experience that and you can feel the controls.
It'd be so valuable.
Right? Think about it. Yeah. Huge opportunity.
We had Fabi from Loft Dynamics join the podcast yesterday, and I got to go and test out the simulation for the first time.
It's impressive, right?
The future is here.
That's right.
And I can't help but think that the industry is now going to be a safer place with that type of technology.
Absolutely.
What are you guys doing to embrace that?
We know you love helicopters. That's why you're here. But are you ready to make it a career? Hillsboro Heli Academy has been making dreams of flying helicopters come true since 1980. Visit us at flyhaa.com and dream big.
Well, so I'll just give you my pitch. I come from this from two different perspectives. One, I did have a simulator business for several years, so I got involved in where training is successful and where training struggles. It is amazing that in aviation, particularly in commercial, we have an opportunity annually or oftentimes biannually to do training dedicated for the operator and make them safer. We often don't take that for all of its worth. And an example, we always teach in the fixed wing world that I did a lot of training for, it was always threshold thinking, where you're trying to get to the minimum standard. And once you do that, then it's basically check. And we all know the test. The test is standardized. It becomes so structured that it doesn't make pilots better. One of the things I think, back to that freedom of being not an approved training program, it's not intended as that, it's intended to make pilots safer. We can do training as an OEM that says, I want to make you better. I want to be like your physical trainer at the gym that pushes you every session, no matter how good the last one was.
That's a good example.
You're getting better, right? And I think Loft is a great example. There's other simulators in the market that also have similar capabilities, but the Loft has done a particularly good job of developing the full sets of data gathering that would enable you to every time you get in it, better and better and better. And with a strong OEM partnership, I think we're really looking forward to this next generation, because I can see a scenario where we can really peel apart the things that have killed pilots in our fleet. And in a lot of cases, it's things that are not just shown in a simulator. You can simulate the pre-flight. You can simulate the ability to prep for mission weather. And do you do those things properly? Those are two of the bigger failures.
Huge.
That today, you put them in a normal simulator, they don't get that exposure. But with the right planning, those can be part of our training curriculum and drive really the full consequence of making a bad choice. And I see too many cases where we miss things on pre-flight and it's a near miss. In the future, we should be able to measurably see a reduction in the number of pre-flight misses in the fleet. And whether it's hopefully we can do it before it has a fatal accident, but I think we still get reminded of it where a customer will report a part has unusual wear. And you look at it and you're like, okay, our guys look at the part installed and the stack-up's wrong. And so parts are binding that shouldn't be. And that's an installer issue, but it's also a pre-flight issue.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So these
100%.
are happening all over the world, and not just our products, others as well. But I think it's just this challenge we have of the industry, and we need lots of reminders for the pilot community and for the maintainer community, and give them tools to get better.
Yeah, it's never the accident itself. It's leading up to the accident that causes it. And that's what reinforced at the safety course, right? This idea that, hey, the accident started when you left your house, and you were rushing. And then you got to the airport and you rushed your pre-flight because I flew the helicopter yesterday.
Right.
It just got out of the 100 hour. It's fine. They didn't leave a tool, right? All those things.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's always I think they call it the Swiss cheese, right? It's all those holes aligning, and it's just classic. And it's sad that it keeps happening, but I'm hoping with simulation and OEMs like Robinson pushing this idea of truly trying to make the industry better. I mean, that's what I really feel with you guys specifically is like, you have a vested interest in making everything safer.
Absolutely.
So it's so important, and I like that you guys are doing that. Randy, we got to transition here to Europe. Last year I was in Madrid, and I remember reaching out to David saying, "Where are you?" And David said, we'll be there next year. And so I know that this is is this the first time coming
First
to
time
Europe?
for Robinson.
It is.
So congratulations. It's a big move. I know it's a lot of resources and things to get here. What has the show been like for you so far? What were some of your initiatives coming in? What have you loved about the show?
Yeah, it's been great. So we have a huge Robinson presence over in Europe. We have a large service center. We have a large dealer network. And as you mentioned, it's been the first time here. So a lot of folks are coming up to the first time saying, very welcome. We're happy you're here. So very interested to see the new aircraft, interested to talk to some of the new team members and everything else. So it's been a very positive experience. And we had our dealer and service center meeting on Sunday night, and that was also went pretty well with the team, and very welcome from an overall just presence standpoint. Again, because like you said, it's our first time here, so they're happy.
Yeah, it's good. David, what's the experience been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, these shows, the European market has had a couple of different folks, trying to coordinate the industry for a number of years. I'm super excited to see what looks like a great partnership between VAI and the European Helicopter Association. That's a great lockup between the two, and we feel it when you come to these shows, and they're well represented. All the OEMs, plus you got a good array of the suppliers and specialists that use the aircraft, operators. So it's exciting, and I think a great benefit that comes from this is when we come over here, we can engage a whole new audience of folks that maybe our dealers and service centers don't currently reach. So for us, it's a market growth. It's learning new suppliers. We actually, since the pandemic, we've been looking the few components that we buy, we would love to have alternate sources for, so we have, a better ability to meet customer demand in the years ahead. So, Europe has got a great base to work from. So these shows are instrumental for us to see where best to go next.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys here. It's fun to connect, of course. I know that Europe, at least from a pilot side, has some complexities. In fact, a lot of my fellow students when I went to flight school were mostly European, actually. And I think that still kind of holds true. From an OEM perspective, what are some of the other hurdles of just Europe as just in regards to some of the complexities and hurdles of operating helicopters?
Well, I mean, you flew the new stabilizer, right, when you were in? So,
I did.
Yeah, so the stabilizer, we're in the final stages of approval with EASA on that. And so the certification challenges of getting things approved, and I think it's the same way for the folks that are based in Europe trying to get approval through the FAA. So it's not unique to EASA. It's a challenge for everybody, and I think we talk a lot about in the industry that we think that all the regulators need more resources, and they need tools to ensure that both these new products get certified, especially safety critical ones, quickly, and that they're able to do some of the experimentation on some of the newer technology sides. Right now, they're having to shift gears between them, and so I think it's a challenge for everybody. So certification is probably our number one challenge in management, and we're working with our dealers and service centers who also happen to be operators of various types to really understand how we can both communicate to the people who make decisions about prioritization and, over time, help to reinforce the need for greater resources. So that's a big part of the pursuit here in Europe that makes it a little tricky.
Certification's been a hot topic for a while now, and there's no secret that certification's become very difficult. We just had VAI on. Actually, we were talking to them, and we talked about certification. I brought up the example of a time safety, sensitive deal like the horizontal stabilizer. It's like things need to go faster. If you had the controls of being able to make just some subtle changes to maybe help that process better, what would be your roadmap?
Oh man, I'll just tell you, this is a problem in every industry. Pharmaceuticals and financial stuff. All the regulators for almost every industry that's of any significance. One of the challenges is the industries are always going to outnumber the regulators, and so there's a real need to both encourage people, some of our best talent in the industry, to take rotations through the regulators. I would definitely endorse a program where there's a mixing of industry and regulatory leadership intentionally. And the U.S. Army did this when I was in first at my previous employer, and we had these Army up and coming officers that spent a year with us and learned from the industry perspective. They did work for us, still wearing a uniform and still reporting to their chain of command, but it allowed them to learn from inside the industry and become better at buying the product later or using the product. And so I always thought that was a great model, and I think our industry needs that. Think about financial regulations, same challenge. They're all outgunned resource-wise, and a lot of times talent too. The best talent tends to go where the money is. That's just human nature. Certainly not the case in all people's motivations, but when you consider that at least some really great people wouldn't consider a career in a regulatory world, maybe they would consider a rotation. Maybe it's something that we could make an attractive option for folks, and then we get the benefit of better empathy and communication and relationships, but also you augment the support. You give them the resources. So I would certainly be a fan of it from our OEM side if there were a program in the FAA for us to take an employee, a promising young employee, and put them in the regulatory world for a year or two, knowing they'll come back and be better employees for us and maybe help the regulators achieve their goals. You got to work bias and things like that, but I think those are really the possible solutions. Otherwise, it's simply a matter of time and money, and so giving the regulators more resources to approach these problems as needed.
I think it's a industry-wide issue, obviously, and it's a little bit scary, to be honest, because I'm not sure. I hope our elected officials are doing the right things, and I hope that we'll put money in the right spots to help this problem. But a lot of resources are being sucked up, and it's just it's a little bit scary to me personally. Transitioning away from the doldrum of certification, which it's important to talk about. Though. I mean, it really is a plague, in my opinion, of where we're currently at. But I'm always fascinated by just people and people's stories. So, Randy, for you. I've always had this idea that, man, I was going to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to do my own thing, and that was my path. And for you, obviously, you start flying. Now you're in a high-level executive role at a very large OEM. To me, what does that path look like? What drew you to, I guess, just your overall thought. Was this always the path? And like me, there's a lot of listeners that start off as pilots, but they have aspirations or mechanics. They have these greater ambitions. Not that being a pilot forever is bad, but some people have an ambition of being part of leadership, being a manager, being a chief pilot, being an executive, a CEO even. I think that probably some of the best CEOs are guys that have the industry experience, or gals, of course, of working on helicopters or flying helicopters or engineering helicopters. So what was your path? Was this always kind of an idea? I'm just curious to hear.
Yeah, so it was always kind of an idea. So I attended my first HAI show, was actually in Anaheim a long time ago in the early 2000s. And as I was walking around the show as a young helicopter student and they were going to all the different OEMs, I knew one day I eventually wanted to be part of the table to help make the decisions and be in those rooms making the big decisions and everything to help drive the industry into a new direction. But, life has a funny path, right? So it's never straight and always here too. So, went around and worked for some other different OEMs as well, running their aftermarket and their customer support side of the house. And really knew that one day I wanted to get back into the helicopter industry and then take all that knowledge and experience that I have learned over my time and really apply it here to the next generation to really focus and really help us grow.
Yeah, it's super cool. How did the dots connect then for you to end up, coming into customer success?
Well, I'll start with we to find good talent, you got to use good talent. So we had a partner that does recruiting and had helped us find some other good folks in the leadership team. And so we put out a search and had some really great candidates. And so there's a few folks that I know really wanted the job, and we had some great candidates. But in the end, Randy had the right mindset, and he will not tell you, but he's super humble. And so coming into our environment, one of the things I think does make Robinson more successful at making the changes that we would like to make is there has to come from a perspective of humility that, we know Robinson has a really great foundation and an absolutely awesome network of dealers and service centers. So what we have to think about is it's really this next level of growth that's driving any change at all. At the level we're at, we're very successful. The business does a great job, but I think we want to grow more and we want to serve more customers. And so because of that, changes are going to have to happen. And so you got to start with humility. And so Randy really came across through the process as the most qualified, but also the most humble of the candidates. And I think that stuck really quickly as the right guy, So
what is not that you have to give all the secrets away of the gouge, but what is the process? What was the process like for you in interviewing and what were you guys really trying to find? Because interviewing is tricky. It's like people can be a strong interviewee. Oh, yeah. Is that the right word?
Especially in the current world. Yep.
And then you get hired, and they're like, oh, that's not the same. Is that the same person that we talked to? So I guess I want to hear from your perspective first of what the process was like, and then I would like to kind of hear from your side as well. Kind of a fun little game we can play.
Here we go, Dr. Phil. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was great. When the team first reached out to me, it was they had mentioned a helicopter OEM in California, and there's only one, so it instantly clicked. I'm like, oh yeah, exactly. Who are they? And what does that look like? So immediately, once you get that and you understand what that looks like, you're instant interest on there too. And then you look at, okay, is it fit mutually? And so we continued to have our discussions, and as things kind of progressed and learn more about the organization, the vision, team that David's driving to, it's something I definitely wanted to be part of. And then we just kind of continued talking and over the next several months, and then here we are. So it was a very great positive experience, and it was amazing.
And when you're going through that courting process, which it very much is, what are you looking for? Obviously, you talked about humility and being humble. What are some of the other key points of what you specifically look for in an individual to join at a high-level executive position? Yeah,
I think in the state of the business we're in, we have some corporate values that we really were looking to screen. And for this role, one that's really crucial is the integrity side needs to be very high on the list, and respect. And so I think those two areas drove the behaviors we were looking for, and I mentioned that the humility piece come across with Randy in this particular role was important. But I think the other side was we absolutely need people who have an operations mindset. Everything in customer service for us in the mRNO side, all of which is kind of serving the customer in the same way. That customer success model is understand how those operational pieces relate to the operation of our customer, and there's an intersection there of what is an optimal outcome for both parties. And it's a mix of having the right mindset and humility to ask questions and extract the information from the whole set of stakeholders, and then the operational know-how to go and do something about it. And so I think that's the skill set we need, and it is difficult to assess in an interview. You can't. So I think my best practice is when we bring people in, for interviews, we definitely give them a lot of exposure to different people, so you get 4 or 5 cuts at it at least. So Randy got to interview with a lot of his current peers and a couple of his current employees.
It was a good time.
And it's obviously
current employees. I like that.
Yeah, we try
That's
very hard
important.
to introduce them to folks that are, and it's not always possible. Like when we hired Will Fulton for business development, there isn't a team for him.
Sure.
He's working closely with the dealer network, so it was all peers for him. But we absolutely, in the big picture, folks have a voice. So, Robin got to meet when she joined for marketing. She got to meet all of the team members before she joined, before we made a decision to hire her. So, I think that's the model we'd like to pursue when we can. But overall, I think operations, capability mindset, and the right behaviors, it was the balance we're looking for. And you can assess a little bit of that in a, hour-long interview or a whole day, off-site interview like we did, or and you're still got a risk there no matter what. Randy has passed the test, though.
Nice. Congrats, Randy.
Thanks.
You're
Appreciate it.
In fact, I had dinner with David going into when I was doing the safety course, and he was talking about really needing a customer success guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And here you are.
Yeah.
So I got to meet you. I didn't know it was you then. So it's good. It's cool, and I know it's been an initiative of you. Yeah. July you started, so fairly new to the role. Mm-hmm. Still getting your feet wet. What's kind of the day in the life been for you? What are just some of your personal initiatives that you've brought into this that you're really excited to get through in this first year on being on the team?
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Yeah, really, the first really 90, 120 days is really just kind of understanding our customer base. Like, what are they saying out there about the Robinson product? What things can we do differently? What can we question? What can we change? And then really get that feedback and understand what new thoughts and processes that we can actually implement over the next 12 months. And then really start laying the ground foundation again to improve the sustainment side of the house, to talk about the new services with the flight training side, and then the innovation side, which we really hadn't chatted about too. There's a lot of new technology out there that we historically just hadn't embraced for certain reasons. But we're looking now as from a growth path. Again, everybody's connected by their phone. So how can you do things a little bit better? How can you communicate? How can you access data and information? So really looking to scale it into the new technology side with the use of all the new information and data out there.
So you lead me into a talk of innovation. I don't know if it's a good path or the right path, but
great path.
Is there some innovation that we can talk about on today's show?
Well, I think, to the extent of customer success, some areas that we are really confident are going to be game-changing. We talked about the training piece, but imagine the training piece integrated with the flight data monitoring that we can gather from the fleet. And so projects that we are working on for the future, and I won't dig into the exact projects. You won't trick me this time, Halsey.
I never do.
I know. But
I can't get anything over David.
That's right. But the idea is that future aircraft, the data coming off board isn't just going to be for making decisions about is a good part on the aircraft or is the pilot adhering to the pilot operating handbook or those types of things. It'll also be used to feed back data into our simulation and training so that we can then flow out new scenarios to the fleet. So you can imagine that there are accidents that happen that if we can capture the story and then replicate that for the fleet in real time, like within a week, within 2 weeks. Obviously, some of that is restricted because of investigations, but the reality is as soon as we possibly can get that information out to the customer base, we can flow it to them. And so the feedback loop of that is going to prevent the next accident. And I think we can drive that. We want to make it exciting, engaging, fun. So make them make these devices, make the simulation capability that interesting and exciting to work with, and folks will especially do that. Maybe they'll choose to do that instead of trying to fly on a marginal weather day. You know, that kind of thing. Give them something that is their passion, that makes them better, makes them engaged. You know, so that's an important piece of technology that we're working on. We also are doing some things to help modernize our customer touch points. So use technology to help talk to customers more directly. Through the history of the company, we've primarily relied on our dealers and service centers to replicate information downstream and share it downstream. That has not always been successful, partially due to a mix of time zone issues and language barriers, things like that. So we're going to start to become more active in direct messaging and using tools. An improved website will be a big part of that. And that will benefit from all of the latest technologies that are on the market for management of web communications and web commerce.
I think it's so important. I mean, we talked about this with the Loft guys yesterday. It's, you have these big simulators that are $20 million. And look, I guess they're good for what the technology was at that time when they were developed. But I think it's cool that now we're embracing, or I'm hoping at least companies like you guys are embracing innovation. And I know you guys are. And I think that that's a pretty exciting thing, because I think that there's so much, specifically on the tracking side, like you're talking about, getting these data points. Again, simulation, getting data points. I think those two right there eliminate a huge percentage of future accidents, right?
Yeah, we don't want to get into specific accidents here, but I'll at least describe a couple things. To me, there's a lot of interest and energy being put into advanced flight controls and some really exciting things out there going on. Skyrise is doing a development on our R66 that's quite compelling. We've got a number of customers that are doing various autonomous versions of the aircraft. Those are all very exciting things. But one of the things I think is going to still crop up in accidents, even with advanced flight controls, is planning of the mission. Do people do proper weather briefs, and do they actually listen to what's going on in the area around them? NOTAMs and stuff like that are real issues, and we had one just recently, of course, that made a lot of headlines that was very preventable, I'm confident. And I think those kinds of things in the industry, we got to acknowledge that to get to zero accidents, which we should aspire to, we should try to beat commercial aviation. I think we have all the ingredients to eventually exceed commercial aviation. It might take creative uses of new simulation, like what you spoke with Fabi about. I think there are things that we can do, especially those of us that are not burdened by the regulatory cycle. We're not looking to do regulated training. We can touch thousands and thousands of customers with unregulated training that we just put out there. We know it will improve things. And we have some exciting opportunities to collaborate with insurance brokers that could potentially drive rates down.
That's huge.
I mean, think about that.
That's a big issue.
It is.
Absolutely.
I'm very much in that business. With on the used sales side, and a big stopgap right now for people getting into helicopters, including Robinson products, is the insurance.
Right.
Anecdotally speaking, 3-4 years ago, it's $8,000, $10,000 premium for an R44. And now we're $20,000, $25,000, right? For the same person, the same profile. In fact, maybe even a more experienced profile. And so for me and my business, I would love to even work with you guys on helping make, insurance companies and underwriters specifically understand what can be done on continued training and other things.
Yeah, safety enhancements for the same reason. So,
it's huge.
The fact that today I think the industry is imprecise about things like how much difference does it make to have the stabilizer? How much difference does it make to have the bird strike windows or the cockpit camera? All those features have measurable impacts that should be seen at what you pay for your insurance and liability coverage, hull coverage at least. And I think all of those things we have a voice on, and I think as time goes on with the training data that we're going to be able to gather, I think we'll be able to make a pitch that says, look, these pilots who are in this program doing this amount of testing, they fly aircraft of these configuration, check boxes, should be entitled to a lower rate. And I think, Robinson's behind that to the point where, I don't know, maybe we'll put money into that and help subsidize it ourselves. Because the reality is I want to drive that adoption of the latest technology. We have camera kits. You can convert your aircraft to the cockpit camera. We have stabilizer kits. You can do that as well once EASA approves it over here. You can do the same thing on our other capabilities. We have a lot that we can do via aftermarket installation, and we need customers to want those and pull those. So insurance is going to be a big tool in that, I think.
Do you guys collectively think that Robinson right now is maybe one of the most innovative OEMs.
Did I say Randy's humble? Randy's humble. I'll just say, I hope in the future that's what we're known for, because certainly Frank was known for that. And I think to his credit, he did it despite a lot of naysaying and a lot of people, telling him his ideas weren't commercially viable or whatever. He proved them wrong. And we've had some great, brilliant minds at Robinson that have innovated areas that others could not. So I think, I sure hope we earn that in the future.
Does it feel like that to you, Randy, coming on the team? Like, has it been a marching order of having this idea of being collectively agreeing to innovate?
Yeah, I think you always have to innovate to get ahead of the next generation, kind of think differently about things. So you always have to have that continuous improvement mindset to go do, which a lot of the team does. And it's very refreshing coming from other organizations where that typically has to go through the bureaucracy of some things, and it's not normal. But in Robinson, it's very refreshing, and that we're kind of on the forward edge of all this.
I'm telling you, you guys you're onto something. You guys are uniquely operating in a good way, in my opinion. And I think, like you said, Frank had great innovation, and then it kind of, in my personal opinion, laid dormant a little bit. And I think now with your new team and you on board, I think it's exciting to know that you guys are on the forefront.
Yeah.
I think that there's more exciting things to come, I'm sure, for
There
Robinson.
are.
Something that's non-Europe related, but very Robinson related, and this was so cool. Because everyone is so upset about everything now, and so it feels like sometimes everyone hates each other. One could argue today is
today's a tricky day with the
palpable
election.
day for feelings and things like that.
Yeah.
But recently during the hurricane Helene, we saw an incredible push of humanity doing the right thing. Owners, operators, I get chills just talking about it. Owners, operators stepping up, spending money, operating their aircraft to help people that needed it the most, whether it's picking up people that were stranded, delivering Starlink, whatever it may be. There is such this overwhelming civilian presence, and that's another discussion of where was everyone else, like the government, but I won't get there. One of the coolest parts of that story to me is the number of Robinson helicopters. Yep. And the reason it's incredible to me, and David, you and I have talked about this before, is there's a reputation sometimes regarding Robinson, and there's a lot of, it's a polarizing aircraft for a lot of people, specifically if you go on social media. To me, this is a testament to the aircraft. What has that been like, hearing the stories coming out of North Carolina? You guys have to be tremendously proud.
Yeah. I grew up in the Gulf Coast in Louisiana and went through a number of hurricanes in my life, and then moved to Tampa at one point, and we got hit by a couple other hurricanes. I even went to China and got hit by a typhoon in Zhuhai. In all these times, those are just catastrophic impacts, and I think what we saw at Helene is such a wake-up call for folks that it's not just coastal communities that are at risk. There's other folks that really have to think differently about how to ensure that after an event like that, natural disaster, that everyone has the tools necessary to go and respond. And so, this event showed that we are blessed to be in America, where people have the resources to fund, a passion of theirs, maybe a small business where they have aircraft, and then they can lend that in times of need to their neighbors. It's incredible. I think it does teach us some things, though. I mean, from our perspective, we're going to get better at mobilizing our resources. We responded to a number of cases during that few-week period where we had one memorable one where a guy had a really great, precise landing in an LZ, but sucked up a bag. And it was not...
Facebook, by the way, was, at least the comments I read, were like, that part was AOG'd, like it was there.
Yeah, we jumped on that and got on parts fast. We had a great service center that was out there on site, and they were making stuff happen. So I think, but that kind of stuff is an example where we could pre-position parts out there when these events like this. And even in the days ahead of it, we can get it out to service centers that we know are outside the damage area and say they're there. Just like, when they have these storms, I watched the long line guy, or the guys that are doing power and recovery of the electrical grid. They're pre-positioned with the trucks waiting to get in as soon as the storm passes. And so I think we can do our part on that. So I think you're going to see more of that from us. We have a few of the guys coming to visit in a few weeks from Operation Helo and Operation Airdrop. And the hope is that just from their learning and what they saw on the ground, we can learn something and we can be better prepared for the next one. There will be a next one. And I think the other nice thing is I watched this same phenomenon take shape when I was, Louisiana's been hit by several. Houston got absolutely annihilated by one a few years back. And my home state, Louisiana, exported a bunch of boaters that had their own little private boats, the Cajun Navy, right?
Yep.
So I think, in my mind, we should be proud that we can build a product that can be just as available, accessible as the boats, the private boats that enable the Cajun Navy. So I'm looking forward to having that as a thing that is unique, that Robinson can offer the world, and our customers certainly are. They're driving things. I have to thank them. They're the ones that certainly put themselves on the line, put their aircraft on the line. And for us, we couldn't be there directly ourselves, but we could absolutely get the parts to them and absolutely keep them flying. And we're going to continue to improve the product and our processes so that we can be even more involved in the future. But boy, what a lesson learned for everybody.
It's incredible.
On them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this was a unprecedented response.
Yeah.
So I think now that you're taking this idea, or you're seeing that, hey, look, this is a thing, I think it's cool to be able to build off of it. So when the next storm hits, like you said, things will be pre-positioned, ready to go. Jason Quinn from The Real Rescue had some wonderful podcasts. In fact, I think one of his clips went viral, and talking about just the response, and specifically the Robinson response, is the footprint, right? It's a helicopter that you can get into very tight spots. And because of that footprint, because of the size of the aircraft, allowed it to do it. And I've always been a Robinson fan, and I'm not just saying that because you guys are here. I have a ton of experience in the aircraft. To see what Robinson helicopters were able to do in that moment of tremendous, I feel proud. And I'm not even, I sell a lot of Robinsons, sure, but I'm not you guys. So, congratulations on that. That's very cool.
This podcast is brought to you by HeliCASTS. Tired of listings that go nowhere? Exhausted by tire kickers who waste your time? Don't sell your helicopter alone. HeliCASTS handles the entire process from start to finish. So, if your helicopter is sat too long waiting for a buyer, contact the team at HeliCASTS today for your complimentary market valuation. Call 1-855-HeliCASTS, 1-855-735-5226, or email sales@helicopter.com. HeliCASTS. List it, sell it, done.
Yeah, and the whole industry should be proud. I mean, it wasn't just our products, of course, and lots of people volunteer their time. And it seems like to do that type of high-risk, low infrastructure, there was really no landing site that was perfectly, a great landing spot for anybody. And we had so many operations. I think that just one site had 400 saves, and the aircraft were flying 12 hours a day for 8 days. I mean, that's a lot of ops. And,
it's a ton.
Yeah, and I think it just tells you that when these things are run well, and they pre-briefed, they had great pilot operational people on the ground managing all the airspace around the major resupply points. I mean, to do that well means it is a safe operation. And so for those naysayers that talk bad about products individually, ours, we get our fair share, probably more than our fair share. What I say is these are examples of how operating an aircraft can be done safely and professionally,
100%.
even in the most difficult circumstances.
I mean, some of the most, I would say, complex flying that I've ever done was in an R-22. Right? I taught CFIs for 3.5 years straight, doing fold downs every day, doing complex auto rotations. I got real good at it. When I went to the safety course, man, I suck now.
Out of practice.
I'm not. It's funny how you lose it. You really do. And obviously, I'm not flying full time, and that doesn't help the situation. But I got to fly with Simon.
Oh yeah, Simon's great.
And Simon's been, Simon's. It's so funny because Simon's like a name that I've heard a bazillion times, and so then to be able to go and fly with him finally, and it was great because it was a really good back introduction on the flying portion of doing advanced auto rotations, stretching out a glide, slowing it up, doing all the different configurations. And it's all there. The muscles know what they're doing. My brain gets a little scared,
Right.
You got to do repetitive tasks.
because you just haven't done it for so long. But there was a time where I could really dance with the R-22, and it was incredible. And it's
it tells you though what challenge it is for folks that aren't full-time pilots that operate the aircraft maybe weekly or monthly, and for them to stay proficient, or if they operate different aircraft. I think there's a real learning from that is back to when you run a professional operation or you run a business using our aircraft, it's important to stay proficient and put the time into practice. Stay current.
I hope that operators, because again, money drives everything, right? So I know that there's a financial burden to training. I get that. If there wasn't that side of it, we would be training all the time, I'm sure. But I really hope, and I think that we are moving into an industry that is taking more of a priority approach on safety, because I think companies are seeing accidents are a lot more expensive. And so if you can do proper training up front and prevent the accident, then you're going to be in a better position long term. And, I know it's harder for some of the small operators, but, to our listeners, especially on the private side, if you guys are operating aircraft, get out there, fly with an instructor, fly with a higher time guide, go to the safety course. Again, it's so affordable. It's not, you guys are giving away the course, it seems, really. So it's just such a tool that should be accessed. So I definitely can't speak about that. So day 2 here at European Rotors. Any other initiatives that you guys are hoping to work out today and tomorrow, or is it just about connecting?
No, I mean, we're briefing. We're on a sustainability topic panel earlier the week talking about the hydrogen-powered R44 and 66 program we're working on. And then we also have a brief tomorrow that's on pipeline inspection and the fact that our aircraft are starting to really find their stride, the R66 in particular, in infrastructure inspection, where the industry has been built on twin engine work in that space. And honestly, I think we've shown, and the industry really knows this, that twin engine is not required. These modern turbines, they just simply don't fail if you maintain them professionally. And so the R66 family is this year hitting 2 million hours with no failures.
That's incredible.
So I think to do all this, we have to tell the story. And so tomorrow's session will be on pipeline inspection and just, a part of the story of the 66 coming into its own. We're at ship number 1,435 or something like that, and we're sold out through 1,620 or so. And so, we definitely have a lot of customers waiting for the product. So it's a great time to be at Robinson.
I just sold a used R66 to a company that's assisting in the hydrogen.
Awesome! Yes, there you go.
Nice. Development. So I have a piece in that, guys.
That's good. That's right.
So part of the future.
You'll be in the history book then. Yeah.
Part of the future. Yeah. I think it's what I know of utility work and specifically pipeline or even LiDAR and aerial imaging, looking at inspecting power poles, stanchions, things like that. I mean, the technology is getting really good. It's becoming lighter weight. It seems to me the R66 is an obvious contender within that market. That's a big push for you guys?
Yes, and we've got some big names that have signed on using the 66 now for their pipeline inspection, and more in the works. And I think the exciting part about it is the discussion's the same, which is that the question isn't about the product. It's more now about getting it through what had been previously sets of operational rules and things they had built around. So it's getting through operational documentation, explanations of liability and risk to their underwriters, things like that. So it's procedural. It takes time, but in the end, the aircraft's not in question. It's the paperwork has to be, updated to make it a viable entrant for them. And then on top of that, a lot of them are excited about the work we're doing with the unmanned unit. The Ascent program is here. We're building 5 of those a week now out of the Torrance facility, so right next to the aircraft. Literally the same area where they're building wire harnesses and the clutch actuators. They're building the drones, and that production rate is still growing as well. So we'll be certainly higher than that in the weeks ahead. But what's exciting is these pipeline inspection folks see a future where there's very specific missions where they currently use unmanned, and they can use a light helicopter that also has unmanned features to it, so we can drop a drone and do more power line inspections and more pipeline inspections up close. We can also follow up on areas that are a recurring problem, where they have issues of animals and things or issues that they have to monitor more persistently. They can do it affordably with the drones. So we'll work the solution, and we can be one OEM that offers all of that, which is really not the story for anybody else.
And Ascent was an M&A that you guys had.
That's right.
It's been how many months?
Yeah, it's really the first that Robinson's ever acquired.
Yeah.
This is pretty exciting with its own. And that was back in April. So right after I took over, we had started the process earlier in my time at Robinson. So really end of 23, and got them finalized in April. And team's up and running. We're actually at the show together here. 2 of the team members are showing off both the Spirit, which is the one we're building in Torrance, 15 pounds. The NX30, that's a 30-pound unit. and it's impressive the speed it can do. And when you pair it up with a helicopter and the two work in collaboration, the capability is insane in terms of coverage of acreage and management of things like tricky find a needle in a haystack type search and rescue, right? That's what helicopters excel at. And so these little helicopters, they're unmanned, little helicopters, they do a great job working together.
Mini helicopters, I like that.
They're mini coaxial helicopters. So, in the case of, your typical, these have no front or back. They're little cylindrical guys. And so they have a swash plate driven lower rotor and a free upper rotor that basically gives you improving performance at higher and higher speeds. It's less drag the faster you go, and it's got a pretty wide range of center of gravity, so the control system handles all that really efficiently. So it's a great demonstration of what rotorcraft can do. That's part of the reason why I love it. It just tells that same story that is rotorcraft are the most amazing technologies that probably we've created. I thought when I went to school, I thought I wanted to do rockets. Rockets are great. Love Elon's rockets.
The whole new
the landing and catching, that's
thing.
pretty cool.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. But again, vertical lift and landing a vertical lift aircraft
is
is tough too. And I think, we do it every single day, all the time.
Completely unrelated, but you brought up Elon and that. And I think you could better explain this to me. But my one issue, because I haven't done enough research, but it's, incredible the thing gets caught. What is the benefit of it getting caught? Because I know previously it would just come down and land.
Yeah, so that particular unit puts out so much thrust, they were destroying the landing pads, and they were the turnaround time of that reconstruction would have eliminated the mission. The goal is they can do that refueling process in an hour is the goal,
That's
and
crazy.
then they can get back in the air.
Literally just go fly again.
So I think it is an awesome concept, and I don't. He's another one of those folks like Martine from United Therapeutics that if they have a vision and they want to accomplish something, they will make it happen. So I think we'll see that mission demonstrated sooner than we all expect.
Yeah, I got to see that firsthand with Martine with Beta Air. Right?
Oh yeah,
I think
that's right. That's exactly
a big part of her.
So think about her impact. She's flown the Alia aircraft. She's flown the Tier 1 R-44, ER-44. And so she's flown two herself, where all of the other contributors in that industry have flown very little manned work. She's flown two crewed applications of her aircraft. And so I think just from a historical perspective, she's somewhere between the Wright brothers and John Glenn or Alan Shepard. So some amazing historical figures that she's joined the ranks of firsts and all that. So,
yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, really a cool person. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know it's a busy show for you guys.
Yeah.
David, you keep giving me opportunities, so I appreciate you coming on. Randy, so excited to see you and meet you and see where you progress in this role.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much.
Again, Robinson just has such an energy behind it right now, so I encourage you guys to keep going because it's awesome. It's palpable. We feel it. The industry feels it, sees it. And we're just excited. To our listeners, thank you, of course, for listening to the Helicopter Podcast. If you fly Robinson products, I highly, again, recommend that you go and do continual training, whether it's at a flight school or it's actually coming back to the factory or a combination of both. It's so important. We all have a commitment to make this a safer industry. And as pilots, you can take so much away from these safety courses, learn from others' accidents, and make sure that we're all being safe. Guys, thanks so much.
Thanks,
Sounds
Alden.
good. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Halsey.
guys. Thanks, Randy.
Bye.
We know you love helicopters. That's why you're here. But are you ready to make it a career? Hillsboro Heli Academy has been making dreams of flying helicopters come true since 1980. Visit us at flyhaa.com and dream big.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
This podcast is brought to you by HeliCASTS. Tired of listings that go nowhere? Exhausted by tire kickers who waste your time? Don't sell your helicopter alone. HeliCASTS handles the entire process from start to finish. So, if your helicopter is sat too long waiting for a buyer, contact the team at HeliCASTS today for your complimentary market valuation. Call 1-855-HeliCASTS, 1-855-735-5226, or email sales@helicopter.com. Helicopter. List it, sell it, done.